Earlier, you mentioned Deepak Chopra. Based on your experience with the writings of Baha'u'llah, uh, all the revelation, and what you've read with Deepak Chopra, in your opinion, what is your understanding of personal transformation?
When I go back and reread Baha'u'llah's writings, he tells us that that prayers without meditation is inadequate. The first step in personal transformation, in the spiritual personal transformation, is silencing our mind. All these years I had never thought seriously about what does it mean silencing our mind. Then I noticed that, well, all religious traditions do it in one way or another. Sufis, the Muslim Sufis, Rumi was one Sufi from his time, 700 years ago. We know about whirling dervishes. They turn and turn and turn and turn until this mind becomes quiet. And then they start meditation. That isn't even meditation. That is silencing of your mind. You go to Israel and you see these Jewish rabbis or Jewish people coming to the Wailing Wall, and they just keep nodding their head. But no, they're silencing their mind. They're silencing their mind. You go to a Buddhist temple, and you see that these people, these Buddhist monks, are sitting, and they just go on doing this over and over again. And all of this is for silencing your mind. Then I went back to Baha'u'llah. He tells us so very clearly that when we want to pray, it is best if we say Allahu Akbar, the Bahá'í salutation, 95 times. Had I said Allahu Akbar 95 times, maybe my mind would have been silent all these years, and I would have understood what it means, what the real depth of these writings are. So in all of these religious traditions, and even in non-religious traditions, yoga, part of it is because of this, to silence your mind before you do anything else. So that is the first and foremost for personal transformation. I practiced it and it was done. And after I did it, it seems as if I have so much more energy. I'm so much more alive. I'm ready to conquer the world, really. So after this is done, Deepak Chopra also tells us, and I see that Baha'u'llah said it also clearly, but it was rereading from a different light that I was understanding it. Then he says the next step is meditation. Okay, what does it mean to meditate? Then through his writings and rereading writings of Abdul Baha, there is so much about this idea of love and kindness toward the human race, toward everyone. And he basically suggests, sit down and close your mind after your mind is silent, and think about all the good virtues of your friends, and then your mind becomes even readier for absorbing better qualities and being transformed. So, and then not stopping at that, he gives us a challenge harder than that Abba has also told us hundreds of times, but I have not really understood it. And he said, at that point, now start focusing on the good qualities of your enemies, and the good qualities of people that you don't like, and the good qualities of people who have hurt you. And because at some point you were friends, at some point you shook hands with this man, that's why you know him, that's why you hate him. There should be some reason for that. But those qualities that you think are good in that person, over and over again, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, night after night, day after day. This is the most powerful thing, because I now remember the passage from Gandhi, who says that if you do good to your friends, that's just a mere business. That's not a big deal. But if you do good to your enemies, that is true religion. True religion, as Jesus says, is to be kind to your enemy. But when I went through this practice, I had no enemies in my mind. All of a sudden, my mind was healed. When your mind is healed, That is the beginning of starting reading your prayer. I read prayer, it made a lot more sense to me. The ideas of gentilities and kindness and philanthropy and service to the humankind, all of that was so beautiful. I read this prayer. And then I combine these again with Baha'u'llah's writings and what Deepak Chopra is teaching. And then I understood that at that point I have to write down all the virtues. The virtue of philanthropy and kindness and gentility and compassion and excellence and all the courage and all the rest. And then meditate on these. Because we as Baha'is, as Baha'u'llah teaches us, that we cannot understand the essence of God. But we can understand these virtues which are qualities of God. And we are also told, the same way as Sufis, that these qualities of God are also qualities that we as human beings can have. Then at that point, I noticed that what I really should do is to write down all these virtues and as part of my meditation, meditate on them. And nobody can be a better judge than yourself. How close I am to this idea of excellence or compassion or kindness to my friends and to enemies, to everybody. And sort of rate myself on a nightly basis, at least once a week. So I said, prayers, and this is making a lot more sense. And then what he suggests, and Baha'u'llah has said in so many different ways, is what he says, then meditate on the idea of non-judgment. Because the soonest I start judging this person and that person, and who is a better person, who is a better Baha'i, who is a better Muslim, who is better this and that, then I lose my center. I'm not centered spiritually anymore. Then I thought to myself, when he says that we need to study the holy writings, it just does not mean only prayers. Actually, then I've noticed that prayers by itself is not adequate, because prayers is when we are talking to God, asking Him to make us gentle and kind and compassionate. But then we also need to study the holy writings, which means the tablets, which are different than prayers. This is where God is talking to us. He is giving us instructions. And so read a passage from the gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah, or the hidden words. And then I did a little of that. Then I noticed it makes a lot more sense. So this is the beginning of the path of personal transformation. And the last step that Chopra recommends, and Abdul Baha has done all his life, is the path of service. Because if we have become a wonderful person, good enough. But what are we doing for the human race? That is to serve them. So then that next path is the path of service, as to how do we implement those virtues that now we are bringing to ourselves. And that path of service is the difference between happiness and unhappiness, between life and death. But then if you translate this life to the life of service, of serving your humankind in any, and that's not only to clothe somebody who's poor, which is also very good if you do it, but talking about these spiritual values, sharing it with your friends, and becoming one in the spirit, because ultimately all of us have to become one. And when you get that spirit inside of you, which is from God, and everybody has it, and you share it, and you become one with your neighbor and with your friend, with your son, with your daughter, it is the most exhilarating thing. That brings true happiness and true joy to you.